You're trying to convince somebody. Sometimes you're trying to convince them that what you think is true really is true. Other times, you're trying to convince somebody of something, but you're only trying to convince them that something is probable, not true. And these two kinds of conclusions give us different kinds of arguments. A deductive argument tries to get at the truth from the premises, and a non-deductive argument tries to get at what's probable from the premises. What's called a deductive argument is the kind of argument that is trying to get at the truth. And a good deductive argument we call valid. However, a strong argument is what we call a good non-deductive argument. Non-deductive arguments are not trying to get at truth. They're trying to get at what is most likely or what's more probably true given the premises. So you can think about it this way. Non-deductive versus deductive, they have different goals. We're going to only focus now on non-deductive arguments. Like every argument, a non-deductive argument has two parts, premises and conclusions. For a non-deductive argument, the premises are typically observations, experiences, to be more exact, things that we've seen in the past. And the conclusion is typically something like a prediction about the future. Let's have an example of a non-deductive argument. We want to start with an observation, something that we've experienced is true. I'm from Los Angeles, and my experience is that everyone who lives in Los Angeles cares deeply about their looks. Appearances matter. Cars are leased just so they can come off as being more wealthy. So I draw this general stereotype that people from Los Angeles care deeply about their looks. Okay, that'll be the first premise in this argument. And the second premise in this non-deductive argument is that you only make one first impression. Conceptually true, necessarily true. Should we take that word first seriously? And from those two premises, I am going to infer the conclusion of this non-deductive argument, which is that you should probably, you, the person going to Los Angeles, you should probably ditch that regular old t-shirt and put on a collared shirt, one that would be more impressive to those people in Los Angeles who care deeply about their looks. So this is a non-deductive argument because it goes from experiences to something that's probably true. From observations to something that's probably true. The truth of the conclusion is not necessarily guaranteed, and this argument's not trying to do that. It's not going for the truth necessarily. It's going for a highly probable expectation about the future, given the facts about the past. So you're going on this business trip, and maybe you're having an interview for an internship that starts right after college. You're packing and you have your best friend with you there watching you pack, and they see you packing a regular t-shirt. So they say to you, you should probably ditch that t-shirt and put on like a collared shirt in there or something. Like, I don't know, but that's like a pretty plain. Okay, so you respond, why do you say that? And so what their reasoning might be, which they might be able to articulate, is that, well, I've been to LA and everybody dresses really nice. And that's a regular t-shirt that's probably not nice. And you're only going to have one interview. You don't want to mess it up. Since you get this one first impression, you should probably dress to impress. And for LA, that probably means not that regular t-shirt. So you can hear their reasoning. Now, you get on a plane and you go to Los Angeles and you're in your collared shirt. But when you show up, everybody at the office is in pretty plain clothing. It's pretty relaxed. And it's not Friday where some corporations have a casual dress Friday. And so you look around and you feel really out of place. So you call up your buddy and say, hey, you're totally wrong. You totally screwed me over. Okay, and they can say, well, it was more likely that you had to dress with a collar than it was that, like it's less likely that you were going to fit in with a regular shirt. So they're going to talk about probabilities and likelihood, not about certainty. It's not the conclusion of a deductive argument that you should take this outfit versus that outfit. Instead, it's what probably follows from all of those experiences that are given in the premises. But here's what's wrong with non-deductive arguments. First of all, there is no guarantee that the future is going to be like the past. Secondly, even if something is probably true, you don't know if for this case it is true or not. And thirdly, there's exceptions to every rule, so there's outliers for every cultural norm. Even though there are different kinds of issues with non-deductive reasoning, there's a ton of different ways to reason and argue non-deductively. Some people call the abductive reasoning the inference to the best explanation, where there's something that you think is true, some data that you have, and you're trying to explain it using the best possible way to explain all of the state of affairs that you've gathered. So abductive reasoning, same thing as inference to the best explanation. Both of them are kinds of non-deductive reasoning, just like argument from analogy and induction more generally. Here's a second kind of example. Non-deductive argument that's pretty plausible. You can imagine two kids. They're trying to lie to their dad to get out of doing chores or to get into being able to go to a concert. And one argument goes like this: your dad is just like my dad. And I told my dad a lie and he didn't believe me. So you should use a different lie. Let's say that you're given this argument and you think that probably true. So instead of giving the lie that was used and rejected, you use a new lie. There is no guarantee that using this new lie is going to work. Perhaps your dad, if you were the person receiving this argument, wouldn't believe either one. Or it's possible that your dad would have believed the lie that they used and wouldn't believe the new one you just made up. This non-deductive argument about the kids lying, just like this non-deductive argument about whether you should take a collared shirt, just like any non-deductive argument or reasoning, is not going to guarantee the truth. The strength of the conclusion depends on the strength of the premises. And both of these arguments, you'll notice, just like non-deductive arguments in general, can both have a probably true premise or a necessarily true premise. You'll notice that in both of these cases, the second premise is definitely true. In this case, it is a fact and not debatable about whether the dad believed the person who gave the lie. Here, it's a fact that you only get one first impression. Leave out weird cases where you're talking to someone with dementia and it's not clear that they remember, and so maybe this is the first impression for the fifth time. Let's set weird cases like that aside. Definitely true, premise 2, definitely true, premise 2, probable premise 1 gives you a non-deductively inferred, probably true conclusion. And a probably true, strong conclusion is the whole point of a non-deductive argument.